there's no typical session, there's no typical client, but what are some of the requests that you get for energy healing? Why do people come? What's memorable about that?
Right. A lot of people come for physical symptoms. They'll come for that. Each, I guess, practitioner or healer, they tend to, they so-called attract certain clients, maybe because there's some healing exchange that they need or some aspect they can either need or provide. I do see a number of cancer patients and also patients now who have more brain type disorders or illnesses or things that are affecting the nervous system. Some of the more recent modalities that I have that are energetic are tuned to work on the energy level but with the nervous system or the brain. So that kind of helps bring in some of the more traditional research or science education that I had. So,
and what are they reporting? Just on a phenomenological basis, what do they say about it after the session, during the session, and following them getting better?
Right. Yeah. Some people have quite dramatic results. I mean, it very physicalizes quite fast. Other people, it takes more time. So that's the entire gamut. But like one person came knowing that energy work doesn't necessarily change one's pharmacology script or so forth, but she really wanted to come off of a long history of taking SSRIs, which are sort of antidepressant drugs, which after a while she was saying is somewhat like an addiction where you can't get off them even though they're not really helping anymore, because it's changed the brain chemistry. And we did one session of this brain balancing, and she said that helped her get off, which she hadn't been able to. So even though that's kind of a more remarkable result, everyone kind of goes through their own process of healing. So whether it's remarkable to our eyes or it takes more time, the healing process is kind of complete as it is.
Yeah. So talk about intention and the power of the mind. Intention in being what in your definition, I know what my definition is, and sort of the agreed upon in terms of it being some powerful decision, a powerful statement, when something clicks into place in your own mind, 100% of you sort of lines up with what you want.
Exactly.
Is that how you see intention? What role does that play in all of this?
Yeah, we could start, intention is very important with this energy or subtle energy work. In one aspect, just to make it simple, intention is simply where we put our attention. So whether it could be a simple goal or simply saying like I'm going into that room rather than another room.
Yeah.
What you mentioned is is very subtle concept, but a very powerful one is we have various aspects of our consciousness that need to, like you mentioned, line up. Most of us think of ourselves as what we'd call the surface consciousness, which is sort of like our everyday consciousness, the part that's sort of talking to ourselves internally. But there's a deeper aspect of our consciousness that maybe more people come into contact during meditation or right before they fall asleep or during dreaming or deep sleep. And that aspect of our consciousness, when it also is in alignment with what our ordinary mental consciousness has chosen, just like, for example, I could choose to go to a restaurant, but everything else inside me, you can tell, doesn't want to go to that restaurant.
So
there's not an alignment there.
There's some conflict within your being, yes.
Yeah, that's just a simple example. But when all parts of your consciousness are aligned with the same intention, that tends to manifest quite quickly.
Things tend to manifest. Things tend to go smoothly because you're not in a state of conflict or resistance.
Exactly.
So good. It's interesting to people to hear about consciousness spoken about that way, and there's different levels of it.
Right.
People don't really think about that on a day-to-day basis. They're sort of just going along on one level.
Exactly.
So, we were talking about science and spirituality and the field of healing, and you're not really in the field of quantum physics, but quantum physics is the science of what?
Well, quantum physics is actually the science of quantum particles, which is things like protons, electrons, neutrons, and mostly smaller than that. So what, and that was Einstein sort of brought that through so in the 40s and 50s. And so a lot of these concepts are actually already getting close to 75 years to 100 years old. The way science kind of still works, let's say on a biological or molecular biological level, and we're moving out of this, is still more Newtonian in the sense of we see things as like solid objects, even at the molecular level. Sort of like when a neurotransmitter releases, most of the diagrams show like balls just that represent the chemicals moving to the, the next cell, which is like a thing over to the side in the diagram. When in fact quantum mechanics shows things are more like you mentioned fields or waves rather than discrete particles. So that's actually a more accurate description, at least at that small quantum level of
they
reality.
Exist more at vibrational levels?
Yeah, more as waves rather than discrete like balls or particles. So, so that's really what the study of quantum mechanics in a very
looking at things at the smallest, most essential level, the ultimate level, the ultimate causal level.
Yes.
Beyond the physical senses, what we can see and hear and feel and taste and touch. Beyond that.
Right. And we've already, or science or physics has already moved sort of even beyond quantum physics to start looking at even smaller things like string theory and so forth. But when you apply it to healing, the way I look at it is it could be the case that what they're seeing on a quantum level is what we're seeing like on this macroscopic level. But those concepts that they discovered in quantum physics match very closely to what mystics were actually saying about the universe. And that's why there's a very nice crossover between spirituality, healing, and some of the same paradigms or metaphors that quantum physics also showed.
So is that where you see it going? Maybe all of those school of thoughts sort of merging together in some way? What are you most hopeful about with this, where it might be headed?
Yeah, I think, the paradigms it's basically a paradigm shift of looking at your whole person or the world that basically we're focused or riveted our consciousness on the physical dimension. And it's given us the technology, like the cell phone, and various ways to manipulate the physical world to a very high degree. But if you take a culture like Tibet, which developed their spiritual science to a very high degree, they didn't put their consciousness or their research or their best minds on the physical domain, and that's maybe why that the cell phone's coming out of the Western culture. But if you see the merger now of the two, you see their study of subtle energy channels and consciousness and the depth they studied, rivaling what we studied, but on the technological level. So now that we have the internet, now there's travel is much easier, and there's more a cosmopolitan spirit. That's why now the different minds or the general public has access to this kind of information. And the ultimate outcome of that is a synthesis. People will naturally synthesize these various streams.
So do you see your role in that? When you think of it, we're all part of that, of course.
Right.
But those of us sort of doing this work, leading it, moving it forward, really, when you look at it that way, we can see that we're helping to move a shift, that we're speaking about a shift in consciousness, a real paradigm shift. And that the more we talk about it on shows like this, the more we share through the communication methods that we have. Right. Do you see yourself as part of your role in contributing with that?
Yes. Much like the same philosophy of the show in terms of education or providing good solid information for people to discern and explore for themselves, whether it resonates with them or not. I think that's what I strive for, is clarity in the concept, and then people can decide, whether that benefits them or not.
Very nice. So, in your workshops, you talk about this because you lead workshops and trainings, and as well as work with individuals. But you do something we were called spoon bending. People can think, oh, that's left field. Now they're talking about spoon bending. But please, just briefly, sort of
stay with us.
How did any of this, what we just spoke about, have to do with spoon bending? Sort of, what's the premise behind when you actually focus on a spoon and it bends.
Right.
It's not magic. Tell us what it is.
Right, exactly.
We can't demo it today.
Right. Well, it's probably well known there was a psychic, he's still, has information and teaching classes. His name was Uri Geller. He sort of popularized spoon bending and bending metal and on TV and shows and so forth. But I actually learned it at the Reconnection Mastery Conference in LA.
Oh, they do it there?
They didn't do it there. Just another practitioner at night, because it was an overnight conference, said, do you guys want to learn how to bend forks? And,
this is what energy healers do in their spare time when they're outside of class. They're bending spoons with their mind.
So he showed me the technique, and it's totally based, on energy. Yes. And then my scientific training or mine just took it as this is a really nice or great model to demonstrate what's for most people, like you said, the lay public is an invisible to a non-existent phenomena.
Yes.
So, and we tend to stay riveted on the physical. So if we can see a physical effect fairly quickly,
it's before our eyes.
It's a great model. Mm-hmm. So I knew that what he was teaching us as a technique was basically sending the fork energy.
Yes.
And the way it evolved over 5 years is then I would try every single new energy healing technique that I had learned and see if it could also basically change the consistency of the metal. And not that it's proof for the energy technique, but it all of them did. All of them, were able to bend the metal.
Yeah.
So then that's how it evolved into a class. So the class is all energy techniques. Mm-hmm.
And it's showing you when you have something that looks so solid like a spoon that on its subatomic level, this is energy. There's non-physical stuff is what this really is made of. And you can connect with it and train with it, make it move. It's as pliable as the energy that's invisible.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
And it's a visible sort of demonstration of that.
Right, you kind of have a result in the physical domain fairly quickly. So I think that's why it became popular.
Yes. There's a bit of a wow factor with it.
Right.
So what are you up to these days? What's on your calendar? And then tell us how people can reach you, your website.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm here. I was actually here and still here for a couple of days on the East Coast. I work with a promoter. Her name is Susan Duvall in Doylestown, and a number of other promoters on the East Coast. I spent a lot of time on the East Coast, maybe from my connection in the past, even though my home base is in California. So I'm bringing through, I would consider a little bit more avant-garde type of healing modality, even within the healing community. It's called Arcturian healing. It's also based on like cosmic or healing energies, and people get attuned to those so they can sort of carry it, or they get aware of it, and you can use it for healing on multiple levels. So most of my trainings, sort of week-long trainings or more than 2-day trainings, are based on that. And there are a couple levels, like up to 3 levels now. And then I still teach these classes on spoon bending that are more shorter, so people can sort of see, and any level can come to the class, or have interest in coming to the class. Particularly people actually who are quite experienced in energy work, they really find it quite helpful, because it may give them a way to show their clients or their friends something that physicalizes what they've been doing.
Probably great at parties.
Yeah, and great at parties
I'll
too.
have to try. I'll have to try it.
So
your website is?
Oh yes, it's my name all at one. Just www.geneang, Geneang, just all one word, .com. Okay. And that has my schedule there.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I hope you will check out Gene's website, geneang.com. I hope you'll check out my websites. Go to them now. No, relaxationandhealing.com, michelegranberg.com. Find me on Facebook, Michele, Positive Energy TV talk show with Michele Granberg. I hope that I will hear from you and that you will continue to check out this show. And I really want you to know from this that if this resonates for you, check out a training, read some books, sit with it, meditate with it, because really inside you are a healer as well, and a very powerful one. Thank you for sharing yourself with us today here on Positive Energy. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. Thank you. Remember to breathe, and join us next time on Positive Energy.